In Jane Mayer's explosive and exclusive New Yorker article, The Making of the Fox News White House, Jane Mayer details the exchange in the summer of 2017 in which President Trump reportedly ordered his then director of the National Economic Council, Gary Cohn, to tell the Justice Department to kill AT&T's acquisition of Time Warner, which owns CNN. A well-informed source telling Mayer Trump called Cohn into the Oval Office along with John Kelly, who had just become chief of staff, and said in exasperation to Kelly, "I've been telling Cohn to get this lawsuit filed and nothing's happened. I've mentioned it 50 times and nothing's happened. I want to make sure it's filed. I want that deal blocked." Mayer adds, as Cohn walked out of the meeting, he told Kelly, "Don't you," expletive deleted, "dare call the Justice Department. We are not going to do business that way." Jane Mayer joins me now. Just another Jane Mayer exclusive in The New Yorker. You're detailing this relationship with Fox News, which is significant, and which only last night the president was doubling down with Sean Hannity, tweeting amid new scrutiny of his ties to Fox News in your big piece. What is the import here, aside from the fact that he inappropriately ordered the pressuring of the Justice Department to block a major merger?
Well, I mean, I think the question is the president, has he been abusing his power to help his friends, Rupert Murdoch, the mogul over at Fox, or and to hurt his enemies, the people at CNN? This was an order from the president to his top economic advisor in the White House to block a deal, and a very major multi-billion-dollar corporate deal. And if they blocked the deal, it was going to hurt CNN and it was going to help Fox. And it seems like he's trying to punish his enemies and help his friends by using the U.S. Justice Department.
Now, another thing you cite in this story is that Fox killed the Stormy Daniels story, that they knew about it before the election, which would be, sort of extraordinary. You write that after getting one non-committal answer after another from her editors, this reporter who had tried to file the story for Fox, Falzone, at last heard from LaCourte, who was then the head of FoxNews.com. Falzone told colleagues that LaCourte said to her, "Good reporting, kiddo, but Rupert wants Donald Trump to win, so just let it go."
Can you imagine? I mean, so if you want evidence that Fox was killing stories for political purposes to affect the election, that's about as strong evidence as you can get. You've got an editor saying we're going to kill a story because it's going to hurt Trump, and the owner of this company, the major mover and shaker, Rupert Murdoch, wants Trump to win. So they killed it. I mean, so the Stormy Daniels story did not really come out until a year and a half later. It was long after Trump was elected.
And it was important enough that we now know contemporaneously the president was paying potentially illegal hush money to try to kill that story at the time. He was so worried that it would affect the outcome of the election. Let me ask you about the debate, that first Republican debate, where Fox, according to your reporting, leaked debate questions that Megyn Kelly was going to ask. We don't have any idea whether she was aware of this, perhaps not aware at all.
I think she was not aware of it,
right.
is my sense.
But leaked the questions to the candidate.
Yeah, and so Megyn Kelly asked a sort of famously tough question of Trump in the debates, and according to several sources at Fox, Trump was tipped off in advance to this. And we do know for sure that he called Fox the day before the debate, and he was agitated and was upset that he heard there was going to be a tough question. He spoke to someone, and according to two sources who were Fox insiders, one of whom there's also an eyewitness, that Ailes tipped off Trump to that
the late
question.
Roger Ailes, then in charge. And Bill Shine, of course, from Fox, is now the White House communications director. They've hired a lot of people from Fox. We know his appearances, the president's appearances on Fox. One day, Mike Pompeo, not known for doing a whole lot of network interviews, did 3 Fox interviews in one day in different branches of Fox.
I mean, I think at this point, Fox has gotten something like 44 presidential interviews. The rest of the networks have gotten 10 altogether. I think CNN's got none. Clearly, the president's playing favorites. He's very tight with Fox, and the former president of Fox is now his communications director. It's a very close loop that they've got going, and I think a lot of people I interviewed said it raises questions that are troubling about our democracy when the #1 rated cable news show appears many times to be an arm of the White House.
And, of course, Sean Hannity appearing on stage and at various other events, most recently in Hanoi. We should point out that Fox News has some really great reporters and correspondents.
They actually do, and I think it's a real disservice to them in many ways, and I'm sure it's uncomfortable for some of them to have this situation going on, because there ought to be a line between politics and news, and it seems like it's getting crossed and blurred every day over there.
Jane Mayer,
good to be with you.
It's great to have you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.